Hey everybody. We are back to work on the bot. So I ended up bailing a little early yesterday. Well, I guess it was technically late, but bailed before we finished what I was working on, which I suppose is inevitable. It's the world of programming. The likelihood of always finishing a feature before the end of the day is slim. I did take a look at kind of some of the stuff that I was working on and did just a small amount of refactoring last night. I probably only spent about 10 or 15 minutes or so on it, but we changed up a couple of things that were driving me nuts. So, one of the things that was driving me nuts was the fact that we were getting all these WebSocket errors whenever we did a SIGINT in order to close down the program. And so I went digging through there. So one of the things I wanted to fix was this issue with our run.go. So I changed up the way we were doing the signal handling. And so now rather than doing this client connect here that blocks until it shuts down inside of a go routine, I switched it up. Sorry. I guess I've been talking entirely too much the past few days. So I put the signal handling inside of a go routine and handled the disconnect there rather than in the defer. That way we could call an OS exit on this. And now we don't get, now as far as I can tell, the filters get put back and we exit out cleanly. No crazy errors from trying to write to a closed socket. All right. It was a late night. Need Red Bull. So what was the other thing I changed? I started doing a little refactoring too in this command section. If we do, we also renamed all of this to Eric Bot Dev, and I think we're gonna roll with that for right now. So if we call Eric Bot Dev and we look at help, we have our modules here. So run runs the chatbot. We've got help. If we look at the hue command, we have all of these. One thing that I'm thinking about is I changed these up so that they're sectioned by what they control. The thing that I'm thinking though is actually adding subcommands, so it would really be eric.dev hue room alert. I'm still toying with whether or not that's what I want to do. We'll see. So the other thing I did is it was driving me really, really crazy that the alert thing that we were playing with wasn't working. And so I started looking at that, and what I ended up determining was, do I have? So let me see if I can get this on camera, and we'll kind of show what this is. So inside of the Hue app, begin. Welcome everybody. Continuing our venture on the bot that we were working on. I did some refactoring last night and figured out our issue. I'll wait for everybody to kind of get in here and I'll explain what happened with it. Hey Isaiah. We are back to playing with the bot. I figured out, and we're going to have some crazy playing with my hue light action going on. Cash is king. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the thing that I was explaining was yesterday we didn't get the alert that we wanted toward the end. That we couldn't figure out why it was happening. And so I looked at it last night and I ended up figuring out what our issue was. And so our issue ended up being that if you look at the Hue app, you can see I have rooms and then I have zones. Well, there's also a section called entertainment, which is just really weird. So what was happening was when we were looking for a group that matched the name office, it was not finding the room named office, it was finding the entertainment group. So I added some functionality in the code so that, let's go into our Hue library here. So now we can actually look for a very specific type of group. So now we can say, I want the room named office, or I want the zone named office. Yeah, the hue lights have been a ton of fun. And so I have some stuff. We'll let everybody get in here, and then we can start playing with all of this crazy goodness. So I'm not doing it through Google's Home API. I'm actually communicating with the Hue bridge that's in my office directly. So the other thing for anybody who has been following along is we had like these weird errors when we were closing out. I rearranged the way our signal handling goes. We used to have our connect function running inside of a go routine. I swapped that, and now we handle the signal inside of there. Thanks for the follow, Calo Creation. So this basically will now cleanly, when we exit, remove all of the filters off of my voice, and we should be good now. So now we have all of these commands where we can do ericbot-dev, hue, and we can say room list. We can see I have the living room and the office. We can say light list. There's all of the lights. And so now we're able to do this. Let's room hue. I did a quick little lookup table here so that we can have some named colors. Not in this one, in this one. So we're just gonna map strings to the colors that we need. So we can say tint the room to red. Let me turn off my front lights here, and you'll be able to see the red tint quite a bit more. And now we can do a room alert. And now all of the hue lights in my room are going absolutely crazy. And you only see a couple of them in the camera view, but there's like 6 can lights in the ceiling and some LED strips and stuff like that as well. So that's all controlling it. And if you all want to be my demo people, then we should, in theory, now have this alert command and this hue command that should work now. So I'm going to start the bot. And then all of you have the option to do a exclamation point hue and then a number between 0 and 65,000 for the color. And you can do an exclamation point alert. And okay, K thanks bye is disabled. So we're going to make sure that I've built any recent changes. ericbot-dev and run. Alrighty, buddy, we're up and running. Hit me. Thanks for the sub, Shines Love. So that's super close. It's really close to the hue that it already is. You're gonna have to get down further. I think right around, there you go, 30,000. We've got some, we'll turn this off so you can see it. We've got some like green action going on here. Spooky campfire stories. So over this weekend, I'm going to do some renovating, and you'll be able to see more of the lights and stuff like that so that we have more of a dramatic effect. Oh, did somebody hit me with the deep voice? I need something on my screen that tells me when those filters are applied, because I don't even know. I have no idea when I'm sounding funny. Okay, so we did a little refactoring. I'm going to kill that for now. What's the syntax now? The syntax for the commands? Right, we switched it up, so now these are all pretty much the same. I'm doing this command voice, and then you can pass it an argument, and that argument is going to be which thing you want. So exclamation point voice space robot would get you robot voice, and so on and so forth. So, and K thanks bye is disabled, yes. So if you weren't here for two streams ago, I introduced this command called kthanksby, and kthanksby will control OBS over a WebSocket and shut down my stream. And I don't know how many points that's going to cost yet, but it's going to be a lot. So we started doing some refactoring, and I think I want to kind of continue on with that. So the hue stuff is looking pretty good. I think I still have this to do to use with timeout for contexts here. What was everybody finishing up on Begin's stream? What were you doing? I was off at a meeting and had to drive back. I listened to part of it and I think I answered one question, but then what were you finishing up on? It sounded like a GDB thing. So the lights themselves are these Philips hue lights. If we click on this here, yes, I'll take the cookies. But there's a variety of things, right? We can plug these things, we can screw them in. I have some recessed lighting that I have some LED strips. I have that little bowl thing you were looking at. I've got that rod behind me. Make it 3 points, but only one user gets it at a time and it hops around randomly. Oh, that'd be pretty funny, like hot potato. I think we could also vote it, right? Where we have to have a majority count. So it looks at all of the people in chat and a majority vote has to be taken for kthanksby to apply. I think that'd be kind of a fun thing. So yeah, so there's a bridge, this device here, that's sitting up on top of one of my shelves here. All of the lights communicate with that. It is exposed over HTTP, and we're communicating with that with a library that we found. I am asking for people to vote me off the air. I mean, if the content's not quality, get me out of there. Put somebody else in place. You're fired. Okay. So I think that this is pretty good right now. I think we could use some Go docs, we could use some tests, but I like where this is going. I think that our OBS control is still a bit messy, so we need to refactor that. I need to delete that. Maybe after today, this will be in a state where I won't be completely embarrassed pushing it to GitHub for everybody to play with and contribute back. So our options for today are we can refactor our OBS library here because this is a little meh. I guess it's okay. The other thing I'm thinking about doing here is inside of our hue command, we have like list, or light list, room hue. I'm thinking about making these subcommands where it's just ericbotdev hue room alert. I don't know. We can do that later. So OBS is looking okay, I guess. Is there any other functionality we want to introduce to OBS? We can get a display an image or play a sound probably. I wanna borrow some of Begin's code for playing media files as well. I did go with ericbotdev. I think that was you who suggested it, right, Dennis? I made my first programming project live at work for my coworkers to use. Never made a complete project before, and they're finding it really useful, which is a cool feeling. Yeah, so that is actually one of the coolest things about programming. This is sort of a little side rant here. So one of the things that I tell people when they ask about programming, they're like, I don't understand. I wouldn't be able to do that all day. It would get really boring and tedious. But the problem solving is really, really fun to begin with, being challenged and solving new problems. But I tell people it's kind of like being a contractor, right? Like hammering every nail is not entertaining, but being able to step back after some period of time and being like, I freaking built that is a really, really gratifying feeling. And then in addition to that, I think it's really, really cool to know that a ton of people are using something that you built. There's something really fulfilling about feeling like you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself. Okay, let's see. Um, there was something I wanted to still refactor here, and I was just thinking about it last night at like 1 a.m. Was it the Twitch code? I think that's the thing we wanted to do. We wanted to take the Twitch code and move it, but there's not a lot there. There's not a lot there. I don't think we need this right now. If we start doing more with Twitch, no, we'll leave that there because what that directory we're going to use it for is when we start doing getting stuff from Twitch. Like I want to be notified when there's a follower or something. Using Cobra Commander from SPF 13, that's the good stuff. Yeah, Cobra is really, really nice if you need a bunch of command line options, like you need subcommands and things like that. If it's something more than just running, you know, my server with some flags. Okay, so where'd we leave off? We want to get this ready to push to GitHub so that everybody can contribute. So the other thing we talked about, I don't know how many people were here on last stream, was how do we make this reusable? Because I don't like this. I don't like that we have this command list here and this giant case statement. Yes, so we do need some unit tests. That's probably going to require us to do a little bit of refactoring as well. But one of the things that I'd like to get to as well is we've got like this process command function, and I don't like it. I don't. And here's why. It requires you to have the same bot as me or to basically gut all of this, right? Same thing. Well, my alert command alerts my zone in Hue called office. Well, yours might not be that. Your scene might not be this. So I'd really like to come up with either a domain specific language that allows us to configure all of this without having to rebuild the application. We only rebuild the application if we introduce new modules, or some sort of JSON file or YAML file that defines this stuff. Because none of this is magic, right? There's no reason I can't have some configuration that says I want a command in chat called scene, and it's going to use the OBS module to call the change scene action, and these are the parameters, right? There's no reason that can't come from a configuration file. So I'd love everybody's thoughts on this. We kicked around the idea of using JavaScript. We kicked around the idea of using Lua. We kicked around the idea of just using straight JSON. What would be a fun project? The configuration side? We can start on it now. We can totally start on it now. Let's get a vote. Everybody cool with that? Is that what we want to do? Abstract all of this out and start defining what that should look like? All right. I'm going to assume that there are no objections. So let's start thinking about this. So we have a user command, and this is what we're using to just go through the chat library and call this function. So this is what we're going to pass in. But we need a configuration to define this. What do we mic drop in, Rockerboo? So let's think about what we need to consume, and then maybe we can think about what the JSON looks like for that. So we need this type. We're going to call it a command for now, but we need a type command. And we're going to want its name. We're going to want to know. We put together a JSON file for this as kind of an example yesterday, but we didn't start on it. So we need the name. We need to know what module. We need a list of actions. Let's think about that. So we need a slice of actions. I think we need this. Let's create a new folder for this because this is going to get pretty messy. All right, we're going to immediately start it here. So this is bot. Nope, that's not what we want. We want to. We'll call this command.go. Okay, and let's shift all of this here into command.go package bot. All right, so let's think this through. So that means we need a type. We also need a type called action. We don't know what's going to go in this yet. We're going to have to think this through. So let's see. So we have the name, we have the list of actions that can be completed. We might want to, at some point, put points or cost here. I don't know. We'll do a uint64. It could be big. So that's the number of points it's going to cost to run this action. We may need to set some sort of parameter that limits how much this can go, but let's just stick with this first and we'll expand on it. So our action, I guess we're going to want to know what module it is. So what we want to do though, Rocker Boo, is we want to make it super generic. That way nobody has to go in and change the code for the cost. If we know up front, I don't really care what the command does. I want to know whether the user has enough points to run it. And then we're going to deduct that and then run it. And then we'll call out to the module that provides the functionality to do whatever that action is. Hey, Joker Dan. You can define a cost to the command list. So this is really how somebody's going to configure their own bot, right? So the bot binary itself provides all of the functionality, and then you're going to be able to define what all of your commands are and how much they cost. Because the idea here is, say, we just saw that you could change the color of my hue lights and you could make them flash. Well, that may be one command, right? It would have two actions in a row. And we're just going to iterate over those actions, which will allow you, the user of all of this, to configure your own commands and combine this functionality in unique and creative ways without ever having to modify the code itself, including how much money does it cost to run the command. Does that make sense? So our action itself, I guess we're going to need to know what module this is. And then we're going to want to know what the action name is. And then the idea here is that we could make the module register its actions with the bot framework itself. And then when we find a command, we could look it up in those that registered list of actions. And then, yeah, and then we could pass the arguments, because there's going to be an arguments list. And we're just going to call that string. So then what we would do is we would go into our lookup table, find the module, and give it this action. And tell it, you are responsible for running this. And I think that would work. That's adding a cost concept to the command config, which you may not want to use points at all. And you wouldn't need to, right? So the cost could be 0. and it could be not provided, and its default value would be 0, and then it would just let you do it. Does that make sense? Are you with me? So I think we're going to need something in here to track our mapping of module actions. So let's just call this module actions registered modules, and we'll just call So here's my thought process here. So inside this bot package, we want to maintain a unexported map of all of the registered functionality that we have available to us, actions that can be called. So I think that we're going to want to know at this level whether or not the action exists. We kind of conflict on making future extendability before needing it. So the future extensibility, I think that the thing where maybe I'm not explaining it well is that the idea is, well, so same thing. We don't have to put cost here, if that's what you mean. It's going to eventually go there. So we're just going to work on this part right now. So let's talk this out. So we need registered actions here. And then that means we're going to need to change our calling conventions, because we're going to want to probably pass a func action, right? So the idea here would be, let's start with our, get out of here. Let's get out of that for now. That just wraps this. So inside this library, we would end up changing, say, like this create user. Let's say this. We would either need to change this function, or we'd need like a action room hue, or a room hue action, something along those. And then this would take a bot dot action, and then maybe return back an error. And so thanks for the follow, Pedro. So if we did this, what we would end up doing is now inside of command.go, we'd want this to be, what are you complaining about? String type is not an expression compiler. Oh, oops. Matt, there we go. From Brazil, awesome. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just prodding because I'm not sure if it would be better to make it like a points plugin. Then you would send the command and the plugin would take a hook from the command function to see. That's also another approach too, right? The action itself could be to deduct points, right? And there may be a thing here where we create a chain of these things, and maybe we need to return back a Boolean here as well that says to continue or something like that, right? Or I suppose error would work. Error would be fine. So if we could say if one of the actions in this list fails, then we want to prevent it from continuing further. And that could be our way of, you could put an action that is like deduct points from user and then return back an error if they don't have enough points, and then no further actions would be taken. That is another approach we could take. So in this particular case, let's see. If we go into here, here's what I'm thinking. We have a func init here. This is going to get executed for us automatically. And then what we do is do something like bot register action. And then we would say hue room hue. And then we would pass it our room hue action. And then here we would func register action. And then we want our func action error. Oh, we need a name for you. Okay. And now, in theory, we should be able to... Let's return back an error from here as well, because we might want to return back if it already exists. This is nice. What are we referring to when we say this is nice? Okay, so let's see. Oh, the whole kind of registration system like this. Yeah, I mean, it works well because then we can create these new plugins, we drop them in here, and as long as we import them, they should be able to register themselves with the system all on their own. And then it allows us to have kind of commands here if we wanted to run and say, tell me all of the actions that I have available to me. Okay, so now we want to check if we don't really care about the value. We want to look at registered actions first and see if this particular action already exists. I like the idea of doing this better. I think that we should split this. I think it would be better if we don't allow them to do this. They pass us the module name and the action name, and we combine that into a scoped action name. And then module name. Okay, so we pass in the module name, we pass in the name of the action, and then we pass in the function that we call. We're going to use this to determine if it exists already. If okay, I almost inverted that. So if it exists already, we want to return back an error that says action exists already. Okay, so if we're already in there, we're going to return back. We're not going to overwrite anything that would create really unpredictable behavior. If it doesn't already exist, then we are going to, oops. We're going to set that equal to this function. Why are you yelling at me? Register actions. Undeclared name, register. Oh, registered. I feel like we're going to need different names here. We're going to keep confusing them. All right, let's see what we're missing. Return at end of function, line 26. Oh, return nil. Okay. Still missing return at function. Let's see. 117. Oh, on hue. Oh, because we didn't complete that function. That's why. So this room hue action here, we can actually, let's not export that because we don't need to call it directly. We should be able to pass it. So we're going to return back room hue. And then let's think about this. For right now, let's return nil so that it stops yelling at us. I lost my chat here. So let's think. We're going to have on our action a list of arguments. So we're going to need to look at that list of arguments and process it. So let's do that first. Room hue, we needed a group name. I like that. Change to room name. Ah. Okay. And this is just left over from really late night refactoring I did because it was driving me nuts why that didn't work. Okay, zone here. Oh. And now I just broke some other code. Suppose that could just be name too, but all right, what do we got going here? Line 147. Oh, those are the other ones. 4G. And zone name. Okay. Now, just back to our original issue. Line 13. No. Undefined room hue action. Oh, because we changed that. Now. Right. So, our arguments for this are, ooh. Oh, because the action's not going to be public. Okay, so we do have a slight issue here. Just thinking about the way this will work. So we have arguments, right? A.args. But we have two different types of arguments. So one is the set of arguments that you, the user, are passing when you send the command, right? So as an example, where's our OBS one? Oh, it's in run.go. So as an example, right? We're looking for an argument here that says voice. And then its first argument is going to be robot, saying which voice. Well, that's great for you to determine what command or whatnot, what filter we want to turn on. However, we're missing a detail here, right? And that detail is this. I have hard-coded in here my microphone. So that microphone is going to be something that we want as an argument to this action that's passed from my configuration and not from the command itself. So let's think about this. Yeah, we could have separate configs for that stuff. But what if you had multiple sources you wanted to apply a filter to? This is a pretty generic action that could be used. So the thought is argument. So we could mic name. Yeah, so we could have something maybe called a config, and that's additional information that we want to pass. So we could do a map string here. That may be a good way for us to define something in our configuration file that gets forwarded up to the action. And then the arguments are what we actually think about arguments. These are the things the user supplied. I think that would work. The other option for this is if arguments is exactly what we think it is. And we would make our configuration slightly more confusing because we would need... So we could take this away and we could just call this arguments, right? And then that's just, hey, this is all of the config for this particular action. And then we would need something in what processes are commands, which would have to be defined in the JSON, that says that argument 0 in the chat maps to... So we'd need some way of saying that chat arg 0 equals filter name in that map. And we could do that, you know, in our config, right? We could have our args in the JSON, args, and we could have them just listed in order, right? Filter name, enabled, right? Maybe that's the way to go. I'd love to hear opinions on this. So that's sort of what I'm thinking might be a cool way to go. In our configuration, we can say this. And this would be positional. So it's saying anything that comes on the command line comes here. Oh, but we'd still need a way of pushing our own arguments into it. Then we start almost creating a programming language here that says, you know, that it's a chat arg. We could do it, but the difficulty with designing APIs that can be reused by everybody. Let's see. I like this, though. It just falls apart when we need to pass our own stuff. I mean, unless we just did something like this, config. I mean, we could do this too, where there's sort of two properties, and we can say source, and the source is Heil PR40. And this could be how we differentiate how we populate this args map. We prioritize. And you could use that for defaulting as well. We could use that for defaulting. So the config would say the source is a high LPR40. That's what it is in my OBS. And then we would take any arguments on the chat and we would populate those other fields when we create this action. We pass all of that in. Let's roll with that. Let's, unless anybody else has any other ideas or any like glaring problems they see with that implementation, I think we're going to roll with that. It creates a cleaner interface for implementing these things, because then I don't really have to care how all of these arguments got there. That's the job of the whole bot system. And that's sort of really where I want to appeal to this. I spent a lot of time designing pluggable systems, and I really like that type of modular approach. So the idea here is that I really like the end user of the bot to be able to not have to write code just to introduce a command that does two separate things. And then on the other side of it, I would like for people to be able to come up with their own creative modules to put in here to provide more functionality to the bot without having to gut the whole bot. So that's sort of why I'm struggling with this and trying to figure out the cleanest approach to it. So I think that this is, let's put this in a comment for now. I like this. I'm curious if my brother's on here watching too. He designs similar things like this to me, so I'm curious what his thoughts are. Let's see, what do we got? OBS source, HLP40, commands. Yeah, so we'd need a way to make sure that we know how that maps. So quick description of what I'm doing now is basically creating these modules. So we have like a Hue module, an OBS module, we'll come up with other things. And so what the modules will provide is they will come in, where's Hue? Hue will come in and register all of its actions with the bot library, which is just a mapping of action name to the function that needs to be called and what arguments are being passed. So right now I kind of have this idea here of this map of arguments. And then, did I just cut that? Where'd my comment just go? Oh, it's right here. So my idea is kind of here inside the config file. We could have a config property which allows you to introduce your own arguments and how they map into that. And then this is the chat arguments. Was on a call, so you were muted. All right, that's how you define the config. So commands would be set in Golang, and the plugin, you would expose OBS as a plugin struct or generic plugin struct. Then the user would use a command in their commands config. I think I might be confused what you're saying, Rockerboo. Are you just sort of describing what I'm building? All right, so let's sort of continue on with this. We'll get a rough implementation of a single command, and then we'll see if we can get that working. And then once we get that working, I sort of am making an everything config. Absolutely, right? Here's the idea. I want you to be able to download an executable version of this bot and not have to modify the code unless you need to introduce some new functionality to it, right? Like you want it to control your website. Okay, well obviously the bot doesn't know how to do that. So you would implement something in here. But if you're just adding a new command, like I don't want to go in here because my microphone name changed, or you know, I have a new scene that I want to change to and I want a command to change to that scene. I don't have to modify the code every time I do that. I'd much rather just edit something in the JSON, right? And then in addition to that, I don't want anybody who wants to get creative and introduce their own new functionality to the bot. I don't want them to have to go through a bunch of trouble refactoring all of this code. I want them to just have some examples of a plugin, and you just build something similar to this, and then boom, now the JSON works. I'm saying make different configs for each plugin and another config for the userland comments. Yeah, so that's another option too, where yeah. So that is another option. So the other option could be where the Hue command itself has a Hue config, right? That is very specific to it. And I guess we could think about that, right? When we go through and parse our config file, we could take whatever is in the config property inside of that and pass it up, but then it wouldn't be very specific to each action. It would be very specific to the module itself as a whole. So if you collectively wanted to set some configuration on the module as a whole, sure, that would make sense. And we may want to think about doing that as well. So there may be in our, this would be inside of an action, right? So this would be what an action definition would look like. But there may be, you know, at the top level, we may provide a list of modules, right? And then if we do that, then we have the module register itself. So that you could kind of enable or disable modules and things like that. But we'll get there. Let's I think this is a good starting point. Let's start with this. We'll try to implement this. We'll see how that works for us, and we'll adjust accordingly. This might take a couple different approaches to figure out something that we think, you know, works for us. I think we're going to be okay here though. Okay, so we say we want to register the action. We check if it already exists. If it doesn't, we have that. Okay, perfect. Now inside of Hue, we're registering our room Hue action. We need to implement that though. Okay, so now args in our bot action, we change that to a map. Perfect. So here's the thing. We're going to check. We're going to take a look. Now we can look at our args by name. The one thing I don't like with this is I'm not typically a fan of using maps for parameters because then it's an unknown API. You don't know what parameters exist, what types they're supposed to be. It's a little sloppy, but I'm not sure we have a better option here while keeping this super generic. So we'll see how it goes. So we need to look and say our arguments. Let's see, we need user input needs validation instead of types. All right, so the room Hue action, we do need the room name, right? We need a room name. If that is not here, then we want to return an error that says room argument room is required. Then the other thing we need to do is change this. We want Hue. Now we're checking for both the existence of the room name and the hue. That should be all we need. Then we should be able to call out to this and pass it our room, because this particular function is already going to complain if like that room doesn't exist, or if an invalid value is passed, things like that. We're going to pass that off on the actual function itself. So hue. Let's see, are we compiling? Are we compiling? Can I use args hue type string as uint16 and arguments to room hue? Okay, so we do have some logic already here and this that we can steal for this. So here we're going to try and convert. We need change this to args hue. And then we'll change this. So now we're past, oops. All right, so here we're parsing the integer value from here. Oh, wait. There's another thing here. We're duplicating logic. Wait a second. Where's the mapping? We had a mapping here. Is it in here? I must have undone it. So I had a mapping of colors. What happened to you, color map? Oh, it's in here. So, all right. So we need to modify this. We're going to steal this because this is logic I wrote last night. So basically what this does is we have a color map. And we should really move this. Let's move this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little refactoring along the way. So inside of this hue library, let's create a helper function. We're going to say func parse color. And it's going to take a string. And it's going to return back a uint16 or an error. And then, no, it's in here. Now we can take this color map here. And we're going to move that over. And we'll populate this a little more. If somebody wants to start feeding me colors, we'll pre-populate it. And now we can take, not in run.go, it's in here, color map. All right, so we need all of this craziness here. And then we'll come in here. And so now what we're doing here is we're going to take this color passed in. Oh, we don't want to do that. So we need something else for here. Because we're going to reassign color there. We need another word here. User input needs validation, blah, blah, blah. All right, been working on macros and Elixir at night to make it write some of the process boilerplate for. Oh, awesome. I haven't got a chance to play with Elixir. It is on my list of things that I want to play with though. Okay, so we need something else here. So I like the idea of using color here. I think that makes sense. I want that parameter to be named. So we'll use v for value here. Right. What you talking about? Oh. Okay, so now we have that. We're storing that there. What you talking about here? If it's not okay. Oh, we just reassign that? Oh, what are you talking about? All right, so I'm going to mess this all up. Watch. Okay, so let's walk through this. The color comes in. We check the color map for that string. If it's there, then let's see. Let's just call this color code. Okay, this will be cleaner. Now we have color code here. That's the result. Color code. Then we want to return color code and nil. Okay. Now, I don't want to spit that out there. We're going to return back 0. And whatever our error is, if we have a parse error here. What do we got going on here? Because this is going to be a uint64. Oh, we need C here. Okay. So now we're looking up in the color map. If it's there, then we return immediately. We return the color code. If it is not there, we go in, we try to parse whatever value is passed in here into a uint16. The result of this is actually a uint64. So we need to type convert it to a uint16 here so that we can return it. Perfect. Now, in this code, we can now do color error equals hue parse color, and it was args0. Args. And we don't need to convert this anymore. This can just be color. And we're reusing that. Okay, so now that's there. We also have the place where, if error not equal to nil, we need error handling. Okay, so that's that. We do need to borrow this though, because we are currently in the logic for the command. We are not in the logic for handling the processing of this stuff. And this is command args0. Command.args0. Okay, now we're reusing this logic. This is all going to go away soon though, because these things will all sort of call that action stuff. Should you simplify the interface by just having an enum of named colors that could be used? You could, but the reason I'm doing a map is because it's being passed in by the user. So we need to be a way of being able to take the string that the user provided and map it to whatever the color code is. Okay, I think we're good here. Unless anybody sees anything crazy. Let's see if we build. I cannot use color uint64 in assignment on line 134 of hue. What did we mess up? Oh, right, because we didn't change it here. So we don't need, we can just do this. Wait. We're going to just change this to parse color. We don't need any of that. Now we should be good. See, this is the problem with not closing Slack, everybody. You see this right here? You see that number? It's going to drive me nuts. It's like, who's messaging me? Okay, so we're building. That's all in the shared logic. Awesome. So where were we before we got hit up by that? No, this was right. Yeah. So now in theory, we have this ability for this action to exist. So now we need to, glad I got rid of the toolbar. Yeah, it's distracting. Okay. So we have our action defined. We have all of that. So now what we need to do is we need to come into our chat logic here. And now we need to say goodbye to all of this craziness. We need to be able to map that. So let's let's get rid of all of that. And ooh, technically, let's leave that for now, and we're just not going to call it, because where we're going to change the logic is actually in the IRC logic. We're going to go to where this is called, right? We establish all of this, so we are going to say bot execute command. Oh, so that's the other thing we need. We are missing something, because what we implemented was actually the action. And remember, we said that a command could be a series of actions. So, onward. We need an execute command. That means inside of our bot here, isn't the type here to search distracting? What do you mean? What are we talking about? Type here to search. Oh, yeah, that down there. Yeah, I need to play with this. So I've only been using Windows for a couple of months. I was a Linux on the desktop person from, early 2000s. I had some Macs that I did admin stuff on, but I primarily developed off Linux. And I decided a couple months ago to give Windows a try. So if you see me weird and all of these things, please send me your tips. I've used Windows, a few hours, well, up until a couple months ago, a few hours over the course of 10 years. So give me all of the tips. So here's the actions now. Now we need commands. These are commands. Okay, so this is how we tell the bot framework how to find actions. So now we need commands. And here we're going to map the command name, and the command itself is going to be a command. Okay, that makes sense. So for now, let's ooh, is that going to blow up on us because we didn't init that? You can turn it off and use the Windows key to search. Oh, awesome. I'll have to look at that because I never actually use that bar. I only ever just use the Windows thing. Where are you? Lock. Command prompt with Windows PowerShell. Show taskbar buttons. Multiple displays. Am I missing it? It must be under the customized stuff. I'll look at it later. All right, so these are going to be nil. I believe if we build this, we're going to get a stack trace. What? Undefined bot on 111. What you talking about? Oh. I'm not a Windows, so I'm not sure. Command declared and not used. Oh, we need to... We'll put you back for now. All right. I think that this is gonna throw in a, yeah. Assignment to a nil map. So, ooh. So we need to protect this. So this register action method inside here is trying to assign to this map, but that map is nil. So we can't do a make there, but we can wrap it. So the first thing we should do is we should check if registered actions is nil. If it is nil, then we should assign to it a make map string func. Let's redefine this type. Let's call it an action type. Action func is a func action error. And then we can change the definition of it later. An action func. It's going to get pretty messy if we have to change it later. Right click taskbar, search hidden. Let's see. Where are we at? Search. Sweet. Even better. Okay. Let's see. Eventually I'm going to have to work on some like actual work stuff. We're just doing bot stuff. I think probably next week or the week after I might start building some stuff to do video streaming, like building actual infrastructure to spin up RTMP servers and, you know, doing video switching between them and some fun stuff. If everybody is interested in stuff like that, I'm happy to do it live. All right, so this should work now. All right, perfect. So that's fixed. Explain what a bit more. Are you talking about the video stuff? Yeah, so as we know, kind of with the current climate and everything, conferences are harder to do. We can't really do in-person stuff, but so we're kind of shifting towards virtual events and things like that. And the platforms are not great for those, and they're ridiculously expensive. Even for the conference that I organize, GopherCon, like you're looking at places and they want $20,000 or $80,000, and I know how their systems are implemented, so it drives me crazy. And we're doing stuff even at Microsoft with video streaming, so I kind of want to build a system so that everybody can just deploy it and they just have to pay for their streaming time for their encoders and things like that. Most everybody uses the same stuff. It's all FFmpeg or GStreamer under the hood. Most people, the streaming endpoint is just Nginx with the RTMP module. So what I want to build is kind of an orchestration system where you can spin up multiple RTMP endpoints for multiple users and have them all streaming as if they were video inputs. Think OBS and scene changes, except each camera is really somebody else's RTMP feed and doing picture-in-picture and things like that. An open source mux, yeah. So it'd basically be like an open source production switcher, but combined with some scheduling stuff and a bunch of other cool feature ideas that I have. But yeah, I'm going to start building something like that. It's going to be open source. And if people are into building distributed systems and video stuff, then I'm happy to do it live. Yeah, I want to, oh, here's Aaron. Yeah, I want to experiment with like injecting lower thirds automatically based on information that's in the calendar for the user. I've got a bunch of ideas that I'd like to get to, but first we're going to get all the infrastructure bits in place. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and you know, if people are into watching that, then awesome, I'll do it live. Most people like watching all of the fun little bot stuff, though. Had me in the background. How dare you, Aaron? Jeez, I thought we were friends, man. Okay, so where'd we leave off? Oh. Thanks for the follow, Pro Nerd J. Yeah, so ingesting and serving, multiple inputs, multiple outputs, choosing what's going where. Yeah, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so what do we have here? So our actions are registered. We needed commands. We were going to cheat. So let's just do a literal here. And we'll call this one, what was it, Hue? Was that our command? And then that needs to be a command. And then we have our module name, which is Hue, or was it capital Hue? That was our module name. And then the action is Hue. And then args. Oh, we can't do that. I made like an RTMP proxy through Nginx Docker a bit ago, but I was too noob to finish the networking stuff. Yeah, I started working on like an RTMP server in Rust 2.5 months ago. That was sort of a fun experiment. I was more bumping up against issues with trying to wrap my head around coding in Rust more than anything. All right, so here's where we're running into our issue. What are you yelling at me for? Is it because I didn't close that? What am I missing here? So the server itself would be Rust, and mainly just because of the way it handles linking against C and C++. There's no overhead. So things like Go for C bindings, it's actually really expensive for Go to call into C, and you really wouldn't want to do that regularly. Most people who need to do CGO are trying to call into C and stay there for as long as they need to and then come out. So as an example, if you needed to iterate over something and call a function in C, it'd be really expensive to do the iterating on the Go side and then keep calling out to C. It's a really expensive call. So you would want to actually call out to C and iterate and keep doing the work in C and then return. But with Rust, you can link the object files together and there's zero penalty for some of the code being in C and some of it being in Rust. And when we're talking about doing some of these video things, FFmpeg and GStreamer are like, that's where it's at. That's what everybody's using, right? Even inside of OBS, that's what they're using, right? So why are we going to reinvent that whole world? So you'd be able to use my Rust chat video generator maybe to make a test video. I'd be interested to see that, Rocker Boo. All right, Aaron, help me out here. What am I missing? Why is this yelling at me? Unexpected. Oh. And why are you yelling at me? Unknown field module instruct little. Oh. Name. And it's. Oh, the command. Oh. Wait a second. So trying to do a simple project in Rust, and I thought rendering chat and outputting it to his video would be enough, and I can do other stuff from there. Yeah, Rust is a fun language. I have like a little embedded boards I'm trying to do that stuff on. So here's the action. Oh, this is okay. Here's what we want. Ooh. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna implement our first command. So alert, right? Alert. Its name is alert. We need a slice of actions. So we're going to define this in Go first. And once we kind of have this ironed out, we'll figure out how to populate this list of commands that are available from JSON. So we have a slice of actions. Our first action the module is the hue module. The action is room hue. Is that what it was? Room hue. And then args. Oh, let's be explicit here so it doesn't yell at us. Module. Action. And then we need our arguments. This is going to look really big, but it'll look different when we do it in another language, or we do it in like JSON or YAML. Now our arguments. This is the list of ones we wanted to pass. So we needed a map string, which I really don't like that, but we're working with what we've got here. So the first thing I needed to do was I needed the room. We wanted to pass that, and we wanted that to be office. So this is our default parameters. So now when we call alert, we want the room to be office in this particular action. And then the next thing we want is the hue, and we're going to pass it red. We're not going to pass user arguments yet. We're just going to go with the ones we've sent. Now we want a second action. Oh. Right. Commas all the way down. All right. What are you yelling at me for? Unknown field action instruct literal. Oh, actions. Okay. Now what are you complaining about? Oh, we don't have to be explicit there if we don't want to. I spent a couple of weeks in Rust trying to get a project working, got it working, but went to refactor it with struct literal traits, and now I don't understand the syntax and lifetime compiler. Yeah, some of the lifetimes and stuff are super confusing to me, and ownership makes sense to me until you get into weird things like, well, a server wants to own a connection, but then also like if you have a client or a user, that user might own. I'm still wrapping my head around some of that. So the other thing we wanted to do was a room alert, and type is a L. What was it? L select. Okay. Okay, I'm making a cargo project. Here we go. Nice. Should we just wipe all of this and recreate it in Rust? Is that the idea? All right, what's everybody think of this? What is that? Why are you complaining? Oh, we don't have to be explicit if we don't want. Okay, so this is basically the same thing our JSON is going to configure. This is all the potential commands. This is configured by the user that later we will not need to compile our app to do these things. So we're saying we have a new command called alert. That command, we might have a name, we might have a description, right? We'll add a description later. So we'll put a description there so that we can automatically also tell the user what it does. So if you did like a exclamation point help, we could just have it give you all of the list of commands and things like that. We'll be able to generate that automatically from this. So our command alert has a series of actions. Those actions are to call the hue module, the room hue action on it, and set these arguments. Okay, I like it. We're going to start there. So we do need to implement this room alert, though, and then we'll be able to test this, and then we'll expand it so that we can also inject custom arguments like the color. So let's go. Where's our action? Where'd we put you? So we need to also register room alert. And now we need to find this function. And func room alert action. We take a bot action, turn an error, and we need two things. So let's just go ahead and steal that. Copy and paste development. Okay, so we need the room. Room is required. Also, type let's do a to-do here. To-do, ensure it's one of none, select, or else select. We're going to want to add that check later. All right, if we have all of that, then we are golden. So then we should be able to call room alert and pass in a.args room and a.args else select. And we want to return back the results of this. Okay, so now we have our second action. Now both of them should be available to be called. Now we need to go look at our command processing logic. So here we need our bot execute command. We're gonna get rid of this. We don't care about you anymore. Bot. So now we need, just add a function down here. Execute command. Oh, yeah. Let's go up here. I want to. We're going to steal that. We're going to move that over into our command logic, and this is going to differentiate between a command and a user command. So we may come up with better names for this if this gets confusing. But for now, a user command is something that you sent from the chat, and a command is an available command that maps to. Okay. So this is going to be a bot.user command now. And wait, where is it? User. I'm confused. Oh, here we go. Bot.user command. Undeclared name bot. We need to import you. Missing function body. Oh, so we didn't go in it. Even understanding that stir is not and stir and string is not either. Yeah, that is actually kind of confusing at points. And this is Rust for anybody who's following along. No go is fine for the bot. Yeah, so the next project for the video streaming stuff, it'll probably be a combination. We'll write a lot of stuff in Go, but if we need to deal with the actual RTMP stream and stuff like that, that'll probably be Rust. All right. So now we're looking to execute this command. Let's just look at, oh, that's command. Channel, user ID, username. We don't really care about that. We care about the command. and the arguments. Ooh. We haven't figured out mapping arguments yet, but that's okay. We're not there yet. I just heard a ding in my ear. Thanks, Round Rowlo. Rolo? Uh-oh. Multiple follows. Did we get another follow train again? Or follow bot? If you're a real person, thank you, Skate. Yesterday at the end of the stream, I had a whole bunch of people come in, like, all in 1 second. It was some kind of follow bot. Joker Dan, I know Joker Dan's a bot. Just all trolling all of the time. Yep. I'm going to give it like 2 or 3 more of these follows, and then I'm going to assume it's a bot. Oh, it's a raid message. Hey, Polarin. I got the delayed message. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What were you working on over in your channel? I got nice and thrown off today because yesterday, toward the end of my stream, I had like, I don't even know, close to 1,000 follows by some follow bot. So now I'm just convinced any influx of follows is a bot. Thank you, everybody, for all of the follows. Yeah, the follow bots are super annoying. So like now every time I hear multiple follows go off in my head, I'm just like, is this a follow bot again? Are you people real? So what were you working over in your channel? Oh, I just saw that. Twitch integration with C#. Nice. It seems like this is the thing to do. Everybody's writing bots and stuff and communicating with Twitch and Go and C# and Rust and Python and all the good stuff. So we are also doing Twitch integration and things like that. We are working on a bot in Go, and this bot currently controls all of my hue lights. We can change the colors, flash things. We've also built some functionality to get it to control OBS, where you can change scenes on me. We introduced voice filters so that you can apply filters to my voice. And there's a special K-Thanks Bye one, which actually will allow you to shut off my stream, which is currently disabled. I'm integrating it into Unity, building a custom game environment. That is really, really cool. I'm going to drop you a follow because I really want to see that. Is it going to let me do it from here without changing? Alright, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to do it after. Then I'm going to use it as my overlay for both dev and woodworking using MR kind of dealio. That's really, really cool. And the follows keep coming. Thank you, everybody. All right. So, yeah, so we have all of this. So what we're currently working on right now is refactoring it. And the reason we're trying to refactor it is we'd like to build a pluggable system. So the bot isn't specifically tied to me and my OBS setup and my light setup and the names of all of my zones and all of these things. What we want to do is we want to have 2 components, the bot, or 3 really. We have the bot logic that just runs. You take the binary, you don't even have to compile it, unless you want to introduce new functionalities. So we have these modules to control hue or OBS, and those will register themselves with the bot, providing new actions that can be taken. And then we have the other side of it, which is the configuration of it. And that will, right now we have this hard-coded in Go, but once we have this API figured out, we'll introduce this into sort of like a JSON configuration so that you can create your own commands. So alert in the chat will actually come in and go through action by action. So the first action it will take is it will, inside the hue module, we'll call the room hue action. We're going to pass it some parameters. After that's done, we're going to call the room alert action inside the hue module. And this will sort of allow us to keep you'll be able to come up with your own commands and things like that. Let me. Okay. So we were just getting ready to test this logic out to see whether we could take the thing typed in the chat and convert it into, or look this up and then start executing. So inside this execute command, this is a user command that we received. Yeah, we're gonna mute my desktop audio. We're not doing anything where you have to hear my audio anyway. I think we might have got another follow bot or something, because I think that's way more people than came as part of the raid. I don't know. How big was the raid? It's probably another bot. The bots love me, I guess. Yeah, and we've heard a lot more than 7 go off. Okay, so we need to, first thing, look up in the map commands. These are our available commands. We need to look up command. If we find it, then we are going to iterate over. We're going to range over the list of actions. Oh, we need that. We're going to iterate over these actions and start calling them. Let's see. 7 on the right things. 140% raid to follower ratio, right? You're building a bot. You didn't anticipate attracting bots. I guess that is something I had not considered. I mean, the name of the stream does actually refer to bots, so maybe we are inviting them. Maybe bots like streams that talk about bots. Okay, so now we're going to iterate over our list of actions, and now we need to. Oh, we want a helper function here. We want a helper function. So we have this action thing. Inside of it, we have our module and we have our action. What we need to do is we're just going to give ourselves a little. Why do I keep hearing that? I have the desktop audio muted. Does everybody else still hear the audio alerts? Or is that just in my head? Yeah, I don't see it on the desktop audio. Okay. So it's just me who's annoyed. Perfect. Let's see. Scoped name. I don't know. We may change this. And this is where we're going to return back thumped sprint f. And we're going to pass it the action module and the action name. And this is just going to be a little action. This is just going to be a little helper so that we can get, that way our actions are actually defined as something like hue room alert, right? All right, so now we need to look up inside our other map, our registered actions for our a.scoped name. If that exists inside that map, then we have a pointer to a function and we can pass it our we can pass it the action itself. And then we can return back the result of that. Is everybody following so far? Missing return. Oh. So. Ooh. So we don't want to do that. So let's return null. So the other thing that we said earlier is we actually want to capture that, and if it's not nil, we want to return. Oh, right, because then if the way that we had it before, it would have returned after the first action, and we wanted to keep iterating. However, if that function fails, we want to return the error, and we don't want to complete any additional actions. Now, in theory, I think this is ready to test. No, undefined bot out. Execute command. Eric, would you suggest Rust, Go, C# for data scientists, stats background, Python, R, SQL as the best additional language? I'm somehow drawn to Rust, but I'm afraid of its complexity for no CS background. I'm looking for no. Okay, so yeah, so obviously, I'm sure you're aware, Python for data scientists is going to be like where it's at. That's where all the best stats and numbers libraries are. If you're newer to low-level languages, I think Go or C# is probably going to be easier for you to pick up. C# is the cross-platform compatibility has gotten a lot better. So typically I would have said Go if you want this to be able to run in many places. There's a special place in my heart for Go. It's not terribly difficult to understand. Here, let's see. Can I open a new window here? New window. And let's see. Where's my RTMP? Is it not in here anymore? I was just gonna pull up a Rust project. Oh, that's FFmpeg. Where's my Rust stuff? No. Oh, this because it's not WSL. We'll look at it later. But yeah, I was gonna pull up a Rust thing and kind of show you the difference between. Here we can just look at it in a terminal. Yeah. So here's some logic for an RTMP switcher I was playing with. CD source. So we've got a lot of craziness going on here and this type of stuff, especially when we start looking at lifetimes and stuff and these automatic reference counting things, and async awaits and unwraps and things like that. It starts getting slightly more confusing. I like Rust for a lot of reasons, but if you're looking for something that maybe gives you a compiled binary without having to go too deep down the rabbit hole, Rust I think is a really, or Go I think is really suited for that stuff. But Rust is amazing as well. Person I know who does it a lot for data science stuff, they use Python and C. It can be intimidating. Go feels very much like a scripting language. It's really sleek to write. I guess Go and Rust are hype. As data science guy, I'm prone to hype. Yeah, I mean, I think we all are, right? I think we all get kind of bored and we want to try something new. And, that's how we get into languages like this. We become language nerds where it's like, ooh, new language. I've tried Nim, Pony, all of them. All right. C# is a safe pick too. I mean, all right, where'd we leave off? Go build. Okay. Are we ready to see whether this works? And then we can try and pull over our other commands. Oh, we need parameters. So in theory, this is all going to be ignored. Our process command is not called anymore. So none of the old commands work, folks. The only thing that we have, no problem at all. Anytime you have questions like that, I'm happy. They're all opinions, right? You ask you know, 1,000 engineers their opinion on the best language for something, you're going to get 1,000 different opinions, but I'm happy to share mine. All right, so bot execute command. So the only command that's going to work right now, everybody, is alert, because what we're testing is this new sort of structure of configuration based code for our commands. So let's do it. Ericbot dev run. Are we going to get an alert? Somebody hit me. I don't see it. Okay, so that did not work. So let's figure out what happened. So we are going to command executed. Command. We want to know what the command name is. Now we'll see if it's found inside of here. Then we're going to say we are iterating over actions. And then we're going to say calling action a dot scope name. All right. Let's see what happened. All right, hit me. Okay, so it's saying it's calling the action. It said it's calling the action. So our problem is inside of our action handling logic. So let's see if this ever gets called. Let's just print our arguments. Time to load up the debugger. We don't need a debugger. We're going to do print line debugging. I should use Delve more, but most of the time when I'm trying to debug stuff, I'm just quickly trying to check, like, is this even being hit? All right, let's see. Oh, that's me. Oh, right. I have it ignoring me. So you all have to do it. I might need to comment that out. Let's see. Where's the check that says, is it me? So there is a GDB plugin for VS Code, yeah. So I'm going to ignore this for right now. And we're just going to do that so that I can send my own commands. Okay, so we call it, we set the hue, room. Okay, so this should work. Why you no work? Why you no work? So is it returning back an error? Room is set. Room hue, room alert. Room and type are set. So why? And the first one doesn't fail. So it appears like this should work. I'm not quite sure why we aren't working. So it says that it's calling it, but it does not appear to be calling it. All right, let's go to run here. Maybe something's off here. So this spits back an error. Let's print this out. Something tells me that it's the hue library itself. Let's see. Alert. Interesting. So it's not returning back an error from there. Let's try our command here. Eric bot dev hue room alert and red. All right, so we have blinking. It's still connected because the same key is stored in here in my environment variables that we're using to run this command itself. Oh, and everybody, I did realize, I remembered last night, we actually can get Cobra to generate bash and ZSH completion for us. So if we wanted to do that, we could set it up where a tab completes. So we've got an issue here. So let's get rid of some of our print lines here. We've got a lot of them. So here, before we like lose them all. So we know we're getting into all of this logic. I'm gonna leave that there for now. We want to know that. So let's just start with room hue. Well, we're already that color, so we're not going to really notice that. Let's see, room alert, action, room hue. Yeah. Why are you not working? Why are you not working? It's not returning an error. It's not returning an error. Let's look at alert first. This room alert action, we know that it's calling this. Oh, crap. This is type. That's our problem, folks. So we're not noticing it because the lights are already red from the last time. We never changed them back to another color. So if we did like a darkbot dev hue room hue and we changed it to, I don't know, 30,000, that should give us like a nice green color. Can we see this? We need a good place for that. That might be the best we get. And I guess me rotating, we're not going to see it. Okay, we'll put it there. Okay, so that makes it pretty obvious. We are green. So now we should be able to notice it. So the issue was we didn't notice a color change because the color was already red. So we didn't see that. What did happen though is that we passed the room alert a parameter. It had no idea what it was. There was no argument called lSelect. lSelect was the value in the type argument. So, all right. Now let's try it. There we go. We have liftoff. Command. Oh, somebody put in the voice thing. All right. There is no voice command right now, but we can implement it. So let's do a quick vote. I'll be on for a bit longer. So we have two choices now. Well, I guess in order to get voice to work, we would have to, well, maybe not. So our options for things to do are, We can now expand our command execute function here to now look at the arguments that were passed by the user and then do a mapping to determine where they need to go. Or we can add some more commands here. But I just realized the voice one takes an argument, so we're going to have to do that. So off we go. So now, what did we say? What did we say? What did we say? Okay, so that was the difference. I remember now. So here we had our arguments, and that's what's going to go to the action. Mapping. We had two things, didn't we? Because we talked about having a config here, right? Now I'm trying to remember how we thought about that. We had it commented out here. So this is sort of what we were thinking. When we define an action, we'd have a config, and then we would have this list of arguments that would tell us. Right. So the first one is our own stuff. So we're going to need to change this. So really we want an argument. This is going to be config. So we'll change this. I still don't like the name of that. So the first one is the things that our config is going to automatically supply as the parameters. The second thing is an argument map. But that's not what we want to pass. That's not what we want to pass. So just thinking out loud here. This is going to look really busy. So what we're trying to do is like an arg map here. And that would just be like a slice of strings. And what that's going to give us or provide us is the ability to say, well, index 0, the first argument passed in chat, we want that to be passed along in the filter name, the same way here. But then we're passing all of that information to into the module itself. And we may not want that. Let's roll with it. So here's what we're going to do. We don't really care about this room alert. Those parameters are what they are. So what we are going to do is we're going to supply our arg map. And this is going to be a slice of strings. And the very first argument we're going to pass into the hue. And we'll leave red. That means if you do a exclamation point alert, it's going to do red. However, you could still do an alert, 30,000 if you wanted like that green color. So in theory, that's what we're going to do. Now, how do we implement this? I don't like the idea of passing it, but you know what? It is what it is. let's call this args. Let's call this user argmap args. And because what we're going to do is we're going to take the user arguments and map them to normal arguments, overriding what our default values were. At least that's what I'm thinking now. All right, so now when we come in here, we need to go through our arguments. So we need to range over our uarg. So this is going to be our command.args. This is what the user came in with. So we're going to iterate over those things. Ooh. Just thinking. We should use a map for this, but so we're iterating over our list of arguments that the user supplied. So now we need to look at our action. No. So there's two approaches here. So we can loop over that, or we can loop over the map. And this would be the action user arg map. That may be the better way. Let's do that. So we're going to loop over our argument map. If it's empty, then we don't really care about any of the parameters, and we should not even bother looking at them. I don't know. Arg, I don't know. All right. So just thinking. What we need to do is now we need to check the length of the command arguments, and we need to ensure that the length of that is, we need the index. The length of that is greater than or equal to I, right? -1. Wait. Just thinking here, because I would be 7, the length would need to be, no, +1. If we're, these are those like brain teasers where you throw yourself off and you always get an off by 1. So let's walk through it. All right. So if we're in index 3, yes, we need I +1. If it is greater than, then we know that it's at least that long, and then we can grab it out of there. And so that would mean that's the arg. So then we would need to set inside of our arguments on the action. I think we might need to change some variable names here. This is starting to look really confusing. Let's see, arg name. And we're going to set that to command.args I. Does anybody think we broke it? So now what we're effectively doing here is now we're going through the list of this argument maps that we're supposed to find. It says index 0 is supposed to be filter name, and off we go. So if this works, did we supply that? We said index 0 should be hue. If that's right, then you all should be able to pass as a parameter a color from 0 to 65,000, or just the string red. It's the only one we have a string for. If you do not supply one, it's going to have already been defaulted to red. All right, let's do it. Hit me. Let's see, alert. Look at that. We now have parameterized commands. So, next up, now we need to re-implement this logic here. So let's do away with all of this craziness here. We don't want it. And we don't even need that anymore either. Let's go back and get rid of that too. So we're going to put that here. We're going to comment that out because we're just going to use it for reference right now. Dang, it was trying to be cool and show me hello world, but it can't copy Tmux for my terminal. Struggle bus. Thanks for the follow, preview codes. Like, I always feel like I'm gonna mess up people's names, and I really want to get names right. And unfortunately, it's hard to see a handle. And I'll try to pronounce something, and then somebody will be like, that's just my first initial and my last name. And I'm like, crap. Okay, so now we get to re-implement voice. Here, let's just start stripping these out, right? Hue, we've already implemented. Let's do voice next. So next up, we want, we're just going to put it here. We want voice. And if they have an all lowercase name, yeah, it's hard to tell. Same thing, like I refer to Aaron by his name, Aaron, because he's a coworker of mine. And then every time I hear begin, call him, what's it, Arschless? I'm like, no, it's Aaron or Arschless, or, you know. That's okay. Everybody still calls it Golang too, so. All right, voice is our command. And then we need our list of actions, slice of actions. And then inside here, the module is OBS. Oh, wait. Okay, we got to go implement all that. Got a little carried away. All right, we'll do it anyway. So the action is going to be source filter enable timer. Because I don't know. We'll come up with it. All right, so that's our action. And our arguments to this are going to be a map string. Okay. And our source is our Heil PR40, which is my microphone. And then the filter, oh, we don't care about the filter. That's where we're going to map it. So we also need our user argmap. And here is where we're going to pass in. The very first one is going to be the filter name. Does that make sense, everybody? I think that's all we need from a configuration standpoint. So this is really cool because now we're getting to a point where we basically just have to create this giant struct that defines these commands with these filter chains, and it does all of the work. It registers itself, which means we can actually do this in JSON and we can parse it. So we'll do that next if we have enough time. So we can get rid of all of this because we don't need it. We don't want it. Undefined commands. Oh, okay, so we're going to get rid of this. So this is where we were looping through to make sure the command existed, but we don't need that either. We're just going to let the bot library tell us whether or not the command exists. What is var? Ew. Where? What are we talking about? Are we talking about right here? It's just one way of declaring a variable. We can also do this where we declare it and assign it at the same time. However, we have to do that inside of a function. We can't use this little magic operator outside of a function. Var in JS, ew. So no, what we're talking about in JavaScript is that you'd create a JSON document that looks like this whole thing, and then we could take that and parse it into a Go value. I'll show you. It's going to look cool. It's only for configuration. Ooh. When we do the voice thing, that's the other thing we can do. Ooh, I like that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, right? We're only going to do source filter enabled. We're going to get rid of all that timer logic. Why? Because we're going to introduce a new action, and the action is just going to be a bot timer action. That's going to have a parameter for some period of time, and then we're just going to loop over these actions, right? We're going to enable it, we're going to wait some period of time, and then we're going to disable it. Yes. So, let's get rid of Hue. You're gone for right now. Into OBS. OBS. So, all of this timer stuff, you are going to go away. Right, what is that? And you are also going to go away. We're going to implement you another way. All right, so now we need the same logic we had up here. No, not in the command. Not interested in the command. This. So we need the same sort of logic in our init where we're going to register functions. OBS. All right. Our module is going to be called OBS. We're going to register source filter enabled. Source filter enabled action. Wait, what was the other one? Oh, scene. Scene change. Scene change action. All right. That's going to blow up because those functions do not exist yet. So we're going to go ahead and create those. They should be pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, we need also a toggle streaming, right? Is that what it's called? Toggle stream. And this is our K-Thinks Bye, everybody. Toggle stream action. We'll implement that one first. So this is going to toggle stream action. It's going to take a bot.action. It's going to return an error. And then here, we should really, because we're not giving it the option to turn it back on. So let's call this stop stream. because I'm never going to introduce functionality that allows you to turn the stream on. So let's just call it what it is. Stop stream action. Okay. Stop stream action. And so here there are no parameters, so we should be able to just call stop stream. We may want to do other logic here, so I'm going to leave sort of this whole thing. Oh, we need a wrapper anyway because it takes a bot.action. All right, so now enable this. Now if we go look at one of these, we're just going to steal one of our actions because we're going to check a bunch of parameters too. All right, so enable source filter. So enable source filter action. We have a couple of parameters here. Ooh. We're still printing out the arguments there. Go away. All right. Let's see. We need a source. Source is required. We need a filter name. Filter name is required. Ooh, and we need an enabled. So, where's our command? Enabled. And I guess we're going to do kind of word stuff here. I hate the fact that we have this, but in order to make it really generic, that's just sort of what we're going to have to do for now. We might be able to do some more magic stuff when if we introduce a JavaScript runtime, but for now, let's avoid it until we need it. Okay, so we've checked. We make sure all of our parameters are there. We are good. So now all of our parameters are there. We're going to assume you mean true. So enabled, we're going to default to true. You know what? We don't even need that. All right, so enabled is true. And then if strings dot to lower args enabled is true, false. We're going to assume true unless you say false correctly. Okay. So that should be set. So now in theory, because this should check to make sure the source exists and all of that. So in theory, we should be able to now call enable source filter, pass it our args, source, and then our args filter name. And this code, you know, with all of the maps for parameters and stuff, is not how I would typically write like a regular application. The reason we're doing this is because we want it to be really, really generic, so that you just have to, you know, get creative on the JSON side while you're configuring how all of these actions are going to chain together and do things, or implement the new module if you want to introduce new actions into that config. And then enabled. Oh, and we want to return this. So that's that. So let's just go ahead while we're here and do the change scene. change scene. We're just going to copy this so we don't have to type it all out. We need a scene name. Scene is required. And that should be all we need. Let's return back, change scene, args scene. Why are you complaining? Cannot use arg scene type string as bot action value in, oh. We're trying to call ourselves recursively. Go build undefined source filter enabled action scene change. Oh. It's change scene action, and that one was called enable source filter. Enable source filter action. All right. We're building. Okay, is everybody ready? Because I think now, if you get the commands right, robot, high pitch or deep, this should work. Let me turn this on too so that I can see whether we get stuck. Oh, we are going to be stuck because we haven't implemented the rest of it. So we'll get there. Let's try this to make sure this works. Eric bot dev run. All right, hit me. Let's get some voice changing action going on. Anybody? Who's first? And I did not see it turn on. So, command executed voice, so that did not work. Did not work. All right, let's see what's going on here. So we know that we're executing the command voice. We know that we have this command voice. Module ob, ooh. This is why. Punctuation or capitalization matters. All right, how about now? Hit me. Hit me. Deep voice? No, no deep voice. Specified filter doesn't exist on specified source. Wait a second. How about now? Specified filter doesn't exist on specified source. So, oh, all right. So here's the issue. The issue is that in OBS, that's not actually what they are called. It is, I'm going to post them in chat. Those are your options. They're actually capitalized. So that's going to matter. How about now? Hit me.
Now we have a super deep voice. There we go. So voice changer is working. And now we have robot. Okay, and let's disable this.
We're going to turn them off. Now the next thing we need to do is remember this was like a timed thing. We don't want that on forever. So let's create a new file here. And we're going to call it action.go. It's disabled right now. So this is going to be package bot. And now what we want to do is we want to have some default actions here. We want our own actions. So I actually think I kind of want to do this differently. We're going to refactor this. I think we should just have the name of it just be this. This is kind of redundant. We don't really need a separate property for that. We're not using it for anything. We're just doing that anyway. So in a minute, we're going to refactor that. But what I want to do first is I want to introduce some of our own actions. So inside of action.go, I want to, do we have an init in here? We don't, okay. So inside of here, we're gonna register our own action. And we're gonna call it bot. And we're gonna have a timer. Let's just call it sleep. Sleep is the action. And then we're going to pass it sleep action. Func sleep action. We're going to take a bot action and return an error. We don't really care, but this is just going to return nil. It doesn't really do anything, but we're going to have it do a time.sleep. Ooh, and we need args. Args. Let's see. I guess let's just always assume it's seconds. We're going to have to for now. So, what are you complaining about? No time package? Why are you not? Okay, I was like, why is the import not working? Okay, so a.args cannot use seconds values type string and time.duration. Oh, right. So we need to check if we're just gonna call it S is in the map of arguments under seconds. Oh, that's not what we want. We want and this is okay. If it's not okay, we want to return back. Let's just steal one of these. We were already doing this nice little. Let's keep the pattern. Argument seconds is required. And then we're going to have to parse that. We're going to have to parse that. All right, so what do you take? You take a time.duration. Oh, no, no, here we go. Yes, duration. Because then we can parse this. So we need to steal this. We want it outside of this. All right, so now we need to do a time.parse duration. And this is going to give us back our duration or an error there. And if error is not equal to nil, we would like to return that back. We might want to change it so that we know specifically where it failed, but for now, that's fine. And then duration. All right, is everybody with me? So now we have our own new action called bot sleep. And let's go ahead and let's change all of this too, because the more I look at that, I don't like it. Well, I'm just thinking. I don't think we need that. I think it's redundant. I think it's redundant. But we can change that later. Let's get the meat of it working. So, where were we? We did the sleep. So inside of here, we want to take this. We want to copy it, right? because what we want to do now is we want to call the same source filtered enabled, but we would like to disable it, right? And then we're going to paste, oops. Then we kind of need this sort of thing again, except here we want the bot module and we want to sleep. And we don't need a user arg map, but in here we want duration to be 5 seconds. Now, in theory, if all of this works, you should be able to run the voice command, which is going to call the source filtered enabled action on the OBS module, passing these params, mapping your arguments into this field inside this args map. Then we're going to call the bot module sleep, which is just going to sit there and wait. We're a little trigger happy here. We haven't even started the bot yet. All right. All right, hit me. Now remember, you have to capitalize the words of the filters, because now this is actually mapping to what it is inside of OBS for me and not the original kind of commands that we had before. So we need a, there you go. Hit me with the robot voice. And now let's see, does it turn
off by itself? It does. It's turning off by itself. Perfect.
Back to deep and we're off. Sweet. So now we have implemented everything that we had before, except for now all of this is not code, it's effectively configuration. And if we can get it in this configuration like this, yeah, the capital thing is kind of meh. What I can do, because I do want it to map specifically, we could, if we wanted to, you could take all of this and implement it, and then not do the user arg thing, and then just supply the filter name here, right? And we could also default it too, where I could say filter name deep. We could hard code it there. So I don't want to lower it though, because I don't want to make assumptions about. That means that I would have to lowercase every argument that you give, because we don't know whether or not the action cares. So I'd prefer not to do that. In your own implementation of using this, you could not use the argument itself, right? I don't know. You could not use the argument itself. You could make a deep voice one, right? Or just deep, and then hard code the value here for source filter name and not even look at the arguments, right? So there's a couple of ways we could do it, but I'd prefer to make this as versatile as possible and not take every user argument and lowercase it before passing it to the action, because case may matter. Okay, so I still don't think I like the idea of this module thing. Let's take a vote. Does everybody think we should have module and action separated, or we should just have, or we should just have an action and do this? OBS. It can get finicky with the VST plugins. OBS does not like you messing with stuff, especially when you're live. But quick vote on that. Module and action separated, or just action being one thing. Now we have all of this. Oh, we don't. I'm not going to add k-thanks by right now. Ooh. Let's also do this. So we've already figured that out. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We want another thing on our command. So on command, where are you? Commands. Enabled. Boolean. Now, what this is going to allow us to do is not just in the configuration whether or not to enable it. That should hopefully allow me to create a mapping where I can tell the bot to disable it on the fly. So I could send it a command to disable another command so that people can't use it. The question is more, is there ever a case where you would implement something in the but the module and action had to be separate? It's the module and action are really one and the same. It's just scoping, because maybe print is the name of an action in a module, but we're already scoping it ourselves. So I don't know. So yeah. And as far as like creating filters and stuff like that, we could totally add into our OBS logic something that adds scenes, adds filters on the fly. We could totally implement that as well. So we've got a little more time. Here's what I want to do. I want to demonstrate something. We want to, yeah, I mean, you could totally go that far if you wanted. So let's Golang JSON Marshall. I always forget it's in encoding JSON. Okay. So here's one thing that I want to do. We're just going to print this out. I want everybody to see what this looks like. Ooh. That's going to print it out to bytes. So let's open a file. So we're going to open a file and we're going to marshal this out to JSON. And then we're going to look at it, and that's going to be our configuration. Let's do it. All right, so we need it's file IOUtil write file. Is that the one I want? Because we just want to spit this all out. I mean, we could do a IOUtil and write file data. Marshall. Yeah, Marshall's just going to give us back a slice of bytes. Okay, perfect. Normally we would want to use like an encoder and things like that. We'll do that when we go to read in the file, but right now all I want to do is I want to take this big struct that we've created in Go code, and I want to spit out the JSON equivalent of it so that you all can see what this looks like. So we had an init function somewhere, and we're just gonna steal that for a quick second. Where were you? You were in action doc. All right. Inside of our init function, we are going to ioutil.write file, and we're going to call it the current directory config.json. Have you put struct tags on the structs for the JSON encoder? We have not put them yet. We have not put them yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at that and we're going to see how we want to tweak it. So this is going to be data, right? IOUtil write file, data, permissions. Ooh. Yeah. We'll use this for now. Oh, it should be good enough. All right, so now we need the data. So now we need a JSON.Marshall, and we want to pass it our commands. Is that what it was called? Commands, yep. And then data error, if error not equal to nil. This is all going to go away, so we don't really care what this looks like right now, just because we're only using it to spit out our configuration. And now let's see. Now we have a config.json. Boom. And I think I have a pretty print. I swore I had a. Oh, right. Marshall indent. Thank you. It's funny because you don't use these things normally. Normally, you're not trying to look at it. All right, I think that this is going to overwrite it, but let's find out. Go, build. Ooh, not enough arguments in call to want string. What you talking about? Marshall indent. Indent string. What are you talking about? Interface prefix indent, but applies the indent to format the output. I usually leave prefix empty. Let's see. But we need both. What happens if we just pass the two empty strings? Oh, right. Okay, so this is like, do we want to tab it? Do we want to space it? Gotcha. All right, let's see. There you are in all of your glory. So this, friends, is what I was talking about when we said we could configure this. So now, if we just had a compiled bot, we would be able to introduce new commands like this without ever having to recompile the bot, just by using this sort of configuration thing. Now, do we want this way? Probably not. So we're going to use tags. And let's see. We want something called struct tags. And of course, these are going to be blog posts. I just wanted the docs on it to kind of show. So that's when we do things like this. So there's specific ones, but you can create your own. So if you use reflection, you could go through and look at the type and figure out your own struct tag. But this is all we want to do. And so it would get mapped for us if we just lowercase these things. But being that we're trying to go out with them, we're going to go ahead and just add the struct tags to our types so that we can print it back out. So where is our things? We're also going to comment this out, because what we're going to do now is we don't even care about this. We don't want this hard-coded anymore. We want to actually modify our JSON file if we want to introduce new things. So here we go. This is going to be module. This is going to be action. Oops. Args and user arg map. I feel like we could come up with a better name for that. Okay, so there's our tags. Now we need our commands, name, enabled, and then this is going to be actions. All right, so now we rebuild this and run it. Ooh, undefined commands. Oh, right. We can't do that yet because we haven't read this in yet. All right. Go build. Eric.bot dev run. So now this should all be lowercase. Perfect. So now this is how we're going to configure our bot from now on. This is what we got. Until we decide to maybe change this into some sort of programming language or something. But for now, hey, this is good enough to make all of our bot logic super generic. We're going to have to implement some stuff though, because so here's what we're going to do too. We're actually going to put one more layer of abstraction here because this is just our list of commands. Our bot probably needs more configuration than that as well, right? So we could also do YAML. We could totally do YAML. And we might be able to use Viper and things like that for that too. But yeah, we can change this out later because that's the beauty of using this. We can marshal to and from anything. We could do it to TOML. We could do whatever we wanted. For right now, we're going to just use JSON, mostly because I think that later we're probably going to do some JavaScripty things in here for things that we can't do by just like introducing these little sleep actions and things like that. But theoretically, we probably will build a tool that allows you to kind of drag and drop actions and then to set the configuration on them and things like that. And this will be a computer generated thing. But for now, we're going to hard code it. Can we do a docx file if we can do anything? So what I was actually thinking is JSON for now, but later it should really be an Excel document. Excel would probably be the best way to do this. Thoughts? So we're going to have some stuff too. So configuration and things like that. So let's go ahead and let's introduce that. So we're going to do this. We're going to comment this out. We're going to get yelled at for this. So we actually need a var config, and this thing's going to be just empty. What are we thinking here? We need a type config. And this is going to be a struct. And inside of it is going to be commands, which is going to be a... What was that? Oh, so that's a map string command. Let's go ahead and add our tags here. This is going to be commands. We can go ahead and start doing things like Twitch user. This is going to be a string. Twitch user, right? And we're going to start doing that. So now the next thing we need to do is when we start up in our run.go here, we're going to put it in run.go for now. However, we may move it up. You know what? Let's do it in main. Let's do it in main. That way, no matter what command we run, our config is loaded in case we need it for something else. Because maybe we'll start actually changing out the commands here to call the same actions or something. That way we can start sharing more logic. So let's go to main. And now main, we're going to try to look in our current working directory for a so we want to, it's OS open. I always forget this. All right. So this is what we want. We want to try to open a config file. And we're going to just look in the current directory. You know what? Let's to do don't look in current working directory. Look relative to home or bot executable or /etc. We'll figure that out. We're going to add a to-do. But for now, we're just going to assume there's a config.json inside of our current working directory. I guess we can just return, right? Okay, so we've got our file. Now what we need to do is we want to JSON dot unmarshal. Oh, this is just going to take bytes. Now we need an encoder. So go away, go away. So what we want to work with is actually an encoder, or a decoder rather, not an encoder. So we want to do a new decoder. And this is going to read over the file in as a stream. So we want a does it give me an error? I don't think it does, right? No, it just gives me back a decoder. All right, so we're going to have a decoder. We're going to do that by going json.new decoder. We're going to pass it the IO reader, which is the file. Now we have this decoder that we can do a decode on, and that's going to take an interface, and we want to pass it. Ooh. Bot. Thanks for the follow, Censored Gab. So one thing I don't like about here, though, we're going to pass it a pointer to bot.config. What are you talking about? Bot.config type. Oh, wait. What are we talking about? Oh, wait, this is going to become config.commands. But I don't know whether I like exporting this. I don't think I like this. We're going to go with that for now, just so we can get kind of the rough feel of what we're doing. But I kind of don't like the idea of grabbing that thing. I would much rather pass it. Yeah, let's do this. We're going to do this. Let's do it the right way, or at least a cleaner way. Config, you are still going to be hidden. That can be a public type. We don't really care if people look at that. So you are not going to be public. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a function called load config. This is going to take an io.reader, and it's going to return back an error. All right, now we're going to take all of this. We're just going to take this. We'll leave the file processing. That way, when we go to test this, we don't really care where it is. We can just have a string or a buffer holding our stuff. So here we're going to decode into config, and I believe decode throws an error. Yes. So we'll just return, oops, return that. All right, is everybody following? So now, we want the reader. And then in main, we need to call error equals bot.loadConfig, passing it our file. And then if that's not nil, we're going to return. Undefined commands on action line 13. Ooh. Oh, okay, because we don't need this logic anymore. This was just our getting the template for what it's going to look like. Go build. And now we can Eric bot dev run. This should load in our config file. And with any luck, all of the commands should still be working. Let's do it. Did we get the deep voice? It does not look like we did. Deep voice, deep voice, deep voice. Let's see. Alert. All right, so let's see what happened. So this is here. We didn't error out. So what are we missing? Let's go into command.go. Oh, so this only happens if it found the command. So that's saying that. And then down here, let's return back fump.errorf command not found. Wait. Yeah, let's return nil here because this is after the loop executes, but this is after we found the command, so we're going to return early here. And if we hit this logic, then the command was not found. What are you doing? Oh, oops. Command not found. We need. Okay. Build and run. What do we got going on? Command no found. Command not found. So. Oh. This is. All right. I know what our issue is. We introduced this new type called config. So this is just a subsection of it. So really, we need to indent this. This is config, right? Oh, wait, this is commands. And then up here, we might have, Twitch user is eric.dev, right? And then we need our closing one down here. Now that should work. Let's do it. Let's see. There we go.
Now we are completely configured by
JSON. And we can introduce completely new commands. Did deep voice activate? How about now? Yep, we've got robot going on. Perfect. See, this is really awesome.
Now we're all going crazy.
So now we have this sort of just document here, right? And just to prove it, I don't know. We'd have to add a new thing. Oh, right. So to prove it, I will not reconfigure the bot, right? I will not reconfigure the bot, and we will add. Oh wait, we had this enabled here too. We should check that first. So now we can actually get rid of this whole section here. We don't need it. And now we actually need to go to the execute here, and we need to, if we find it, okay. And we need a and f. Oh wait, no, that's the actions. That's not what we want. We need the command. Okay. We want the command to be found, and the command.enabled needs to be true. So now we're going to have this problem. So this needs to be true. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to use it. This needs to be true. We're just going to go build this really quick. So that should work. Now, it is about time to wrap up the stream, which means I think it is about time that we introduce again the thanks, bye. All right, so that's that. The name. This is kind of redundant here too. I don't think we need that. I want to get rid of that. I'm just going to add that to the to-do list. So command is this really needed? We already define it in the map. Okay, so name. Okay, thanks, bye. And it needs to be enabled. True. And the actions, we're going to have an array of them. And I'm just going to copy this because why not? The module is the OBS module. It is the stop stream action, if I recall, and it needs absolutely no arguments. What am I missing here? All right, so if this worked correctly, we just introduced a completely new command, and we could have called it whatever we wanted, exposing some method provided by some module without ever rebuilding the bot. And then this is going to be one of those things where I sit in awkward silence waiting for you all to seize the power. All right, it is now in your hands. You can shut me down. Thank you all. I'll probably try to be on tomorrow for a little bit, but if not, you know why. Did it work? Okay, thanks. Hello. Look at that. Let's stay forever, though. I actually thought that somebody shut it off. I was like, oh, everybody went. But yeah, I don't know whether I'm going to be on tomorrow or not. I may get on for a little bit. It'd be nice to see this a little further. But thanks everybody for hanging out. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe next week we can start on the video streaming stuff, and we'll